Right, let's focus on another issue that's gaining some traction, particularly this week. Suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director, Dr. Makgabo Manamela, has resigned. And this comes literally just a day after suspended Health HOD, Dr. Barney Selebano, quit his job. Both were implicated in the deaths of 143 mentally ill patients that were moved to unlawful and unregistered ill-equipped NGOs. They testified at the arbitration hearings late last year, and the hearings will resume again tomorrow. Well, the hearings have resumed after the festive season break. The hearings heard how most patients died from hunger, dehydration and hypothermia. They died under the care of unlawful and ill-equipped NGOs. Hannah Jacobus, the Deputy Director responsible for identifying and vetting them, will be facing some tough questions for her role. Her testimony comes after that of Selebano and suspended Mental Health Director Dr. Makgabo Manamela, who's now resigned. Neither would take any responsibility for the deaths. 55 patients' whereabouts are still unknown, and several bodies remain unclaimed at state mortuaries. Former Gauteng Health MEC Barney is expected to take the stand next week. Well, we're now joined on the line by Gauteng Provincial Government spokesperson Thabo Maseba. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to the program. And I would imagine that for many it's come as quite a shock that one day after another, two senior health officials resigning after their testimonies last year.
Well, not quite. I mean, we all know they were under suspension and they were facing a disciplinary hearing. So I suppose they would have come to the determination that it would be better to resign than face the whole process.
So what they've done is they've preempted the disciplinary process, but does that mean that they're off the hook? Because there'll be a lot of people watching saying, look, you can't just resign in the middle of this arbitration. Heads must roll.
Well, they are not off the hook. That's why I'm saying we believe as the provincial government that the DC would have found against them. And if they were found guilty of gross misconduct, they would have been dismissed. So they probably would have made an assessment and decided that it is better to resign than face the process. So they are not off the hook. They have now effectively removed themselves as the employees of the Gauteng provincial government. There are other processes which are being conducted by other state institutions, regulatory institutions, as well as law enforcement agencies. All those processes would continue regardless of whether the two remain in the employ of government or not. So the processes will continue, the investigations will continue, and should those institutions that are investigating come to the conclusion that any of the officials that were cited in the report of Professor Makgabo should face action, they would institute such action.
Is there a difference between an employee who resigns and one who's fired in terms of benefits that you might get when that employment comes to an end?
Well, all employees, remember there's law, we all act within the law. There's the labor law, and then in addition to that, all government employees are subject to the Public Service Act. And then further, there are public service regulations. All of those would come into play. So whatever is due to them, they will receive, I suppose. So we cannot act outside of the law.
All right. So again, at the center of all of this was the former MEC for Health, Barney. Is she in the country, do you know, and when is she expected to appear before the arbitration hearings?
Well, she's expected to appear next week on the 22nd. We believe she will be able to attend. There was a firm undertaking by her lawyers last year, and we haven't received any information which suggests that she may not be able to attend.
All right. So give us perhaps just finally, what is going to happen in terms of a timeline after this arbitration, this final part of this arbitration? It should have finished last year, but of course because of various witnesses not being available, it couldn't. How much longer do you think it will take, and what will happen after that?
Well, how much longer it will take, that will be decided upon by the arbitrator. I'm sure at the end of the hearings next week, the arbitrator and all the lawyers that are representing the various parties will get together and decide how long they still need before they conclude the process.
All right, Mr. Masebe, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the program this evening. That was the Gauteng Provincial Government spokesperson talking about the Life Esidimeni arbitration hearings, which resume tomorrow. And next week, Tedani Mahlangu will be taking to the stand. But Francis, you have a special guest with you.